By most accounts, the first Destiny started life as a bit of a wet blanket, partly because all the game mechanics were about as unbalanced as a fat man on a seesaw, and the story had about as much depth as Harry Potter fanfiction. Cards on the table, I did not play the first Destiny because I thought it looked like a second-rate Halo mixed in with a less funny version of Borderlands.
Fella's doing the hero thing in the plaza. Me? I've got a date with whoever's behind this. It'll be a short date.
But since the studio, Bungie, spent the last 3 years ironing out the kinks in Destiny, like some sort of glorified beta test, which happens to cost you $90 and then some in microtransactions and DLC, now's a good time to see what the studio has learned from all the criticism, constructive or otherwise. So I thought it would be interesting to approach this game as a complete moron as opposed to a Destiny pro. And after sinking about 30 or so hours into Destiny 2, I'm kinda wishing that I stayed as a clueless moron. In terms of first-person shooters, Destiny 2 isn't really that noteworthy, mainly because it doesn't do anything that other shooters hasn't done before, nor does it do anything that's better than anything before it. Destiny 2 looks great, the shooting mechanics are solid, and there's enough variety to lend itself to different playstyles. But I could probably say the same about Doom or Battlefield and Call of Duty as well, so there's not much going there. There is a really big roster of weapons which you can loot, and that's a nice thing, but I can also say the same about Borderlands 2. So all in all, Destiny 2 is pretty solid, but unremarkable at the same time. You're also not going to find much in the way of great storytelling or compelling characters either. As far as I can work out, Alien Bane has come to suck up all the power out of this giant planet traveler thing because of reasons. He's broken your character, stripped your ragtag group of Guardians of their power, and taken over Earth. So to stop him, you have to get strong again, round up your ragtag group of Guardians so they can get you back in the game. Why do I feel like I just described a really retarded version of The Dark Knight Rises?
I am Noob, and your light is mine.
From talking about weird alien races like the Cabal or the Fallen to more references about stepping into the light than a Sunday church sermon, everything that's related to the story in Destiny 2 is pretty confusing. And if I'm honest, pretty stupid too. With the exception of robotic characters like Ghost, Cade 6 and Failsafe, most of the characters aren't really that memorable, and the writing can be pretty hit and miss. Unless you're well versed in Destiny lore, which I'm not, you're going to have a hard time remembering who is who. It says a lot about the game when you consider that the human characters are some of the most robotic, and the robotic characters are the ones that give Destiny 2 a much needed breath of life.
Cora, if you tell me this is a practical joke, well, it kills me to say it, but I would be really impressed.
In a nice change of pace, Destiny 2 does have an open world of sorts, but even that's pretty average. It certainly won't be redefining open world standards like Breath of the Wild, but at least there's plenty of stuff to do. There are 4 massive secret-filled planets to explore, and each side quest is linked to the main story somehow, so there is some sort of flow going on here, which is nice. The worlds are well designed, but everything you can do can be summed up in one sort of sentence. Go here, kill this, get loot, rinse and repeat.
So, feel free to kill yourself.
Okay, so Destiny 2 isn't going to be remembered as a great shooter per se, but once you finish the campaign and hit the level cap of 20, it has one thing going for it that will make most come crawling back like a fat man at an all-you-can-eat buffet. The annoyingly addictive endgame loot grind. Destiny 2 has more grinding opportunities than a crowded club on a Saturday night. And it's probably more rewarding too because the amount of loot you can get is ridiculous. So much so that it kind of feels like you're robbing a blind man at times. Proving that Bungie spent more time crafting the endgame compared to everything else, Destiny 2 offers up more ways to earn loot than there are types of side quests. There are 8 kinds of unique public events that happen every few minutes real time across each of the maps, all of which rewards loot to whoever can join them in time. Then you have strikes, where you team up with 2 friends or randoms and kill a bunch of enemies for loot. If you're feeling ballsy, there are nightfall strikes that come up each week, which are basically the same as normal strikes, except they're harder. If you're feeling like spending hours in a state of frustration with 5 other friends or strangers, then there's the Leviathan Raid, where you do a heap of stupidly hard puzzles and kill a planet's worth of red shirts, all for that sweet, sweet fake loot. When you think about it, you are playing Destiny so you can earn loot, which in turn allows you to play even more Destiny. It's kinda like doing cocaine and being rewarded with extra raises. The bottom line is, once you get hooked, it's really hard to escape. If I'm honest, Destiny 2's loot grind is pretty fun, but it's no better than Diablo 3 or Borderlands 2. And as I say that, I am really annoyed at myself for getting sucked into this vicious loot cycle. For those wanting to shoot other players in the head rather than teaming up with them, there is multiplayer in the form of the Crucible, which is essentially a rehash of Halo. It's not all that bad. You have your team deathmatches, your search and destroys, your last man standings, and that's really all I have to say about it. At the end of the day, it's not really that much more different than any other multiplayer shooter that's populated by people who have a weird obsession with your mum. Having finally jumped on the Destiny bandwagon, I have to say that Bungie's latest effort isn't actually too bad, but it definitely isn't the next coming of Doom, Half-Life, or even Halo. There's nothing really that groundbreaking or even that noteworthy about Destiny 2, and what it does have, most of it has already been done better by other games. At this moment in time, at least until Bungie releases its usual slate of expensive DLC, Destiny 2 is just a pretty good game. Nothing more, nothing less. For those who love doing monotonous things like grinding for loot, this will be like crack and heroin combined into one. As for those who don't, well, there is some good stuff in Destiny 2 to last a few hours, but you're probably better off playing something else instead.